My name's Gary. I'm an addict.
I'm Jared, and I'm an addict.
You know, we got asked to do this, but we had to find him first because after lunch, he took off on his motorcycle. Said he got cold feet. He was nervous, and we had to chase him down. Now, that's not necessarily true. Ever since I met this gentleman, and I got put hyphen marks on the gentleman part, he has nothing but willingness from the day he hobbled in here on a set of crutches. He came of his own accord, and he stayed on his own accord. He did what he needed to do. And I love him for that.
I'm glad Gary said that about the willingness, because glad
Bend over, Lola.
yeah, glad Gary said that about the willingness, because when 4 years and a day ago, when I made it to his shop to ask him to be my sponsor, he was willing to take me under his wing and guided me along here, and it's real important to me too. And with that,
We'll give you our brother Denny.
This one?
I'm Denny, I'm an addict. I am like so nervous, you really can't believe me. The one thing I want to do is I want to thank everybody on the committee that voted for me to come down here and share. Thanks, Shane. Because a couple of us were talking outside about when you get asked to share at a meeting, your disease wants to tell you, well, you really don't have nothing to share. You know, you're just a piece of shit like you was before you got clean. What are you going to say that's going to make a difference? Maybe nothing. But my friend Gary said that from the day I got here, I had willingness. And that's what I do. I just don't use. I keep coming to meetings. You know, work the steps to the best of my ability. Try to do the opposite of what I used to do. And just those couple things right there has made a huge difference in my life. And I'm still like really, really nervous. Like I got a friend of mine, his name's Silvio, and I know he doesn't mind me doing this, but what he does is he asks everybody to stand up and give each other a hug. And sometimes it might kind of make you feel a little bit more comfortable when everybody ain't just staring at you, waiting for you to say something really great. So maybe we could like all stand up and turn around and hug somebody.
Okay, hugging's done.
Alan told me, he says, you know, you just wasted 5 minutes. But that's okay. I'm going to tell you a little bit about actually how I started using. And most of the beginning of this, I really had no idea about any of this part until after I had gotten clean. You know, I was a young person just like everybody else. And I was just always real uncomfortable with me. I was always afraid, always had this fear, didn't fit in. You know, everybody else was cooler to me, you know. And, and I kind of grew up in a time period, not that sex, drugs, and rock and roll doesn't apply today, but it really applied in the 60s. And, I was like 12 years old, and I was short, chubby, shy, and just didn't fit in. And my father and his friends used to play country music. My father was born right up the road from here in Calhoun County, for the people in West Virginia that know where that's at. And he loved playing country music, and so did his friends. And they'd have these little picnics. They called them hootenannies. And all of us kids would go there, and we'd be running around eating food, and they'd have a keg of beer out back, and we'd be over there siphoning off a little mason jar full. And after a couple of them, my dad would say, "What are you doing with that?" And we'd say, "Well, we're giving it to Les." It was one of his friends that drank a lot. And we weren't drinking a lot. We'd just get like, there was maybe 4 or 5 of us, maybe 5 or 6 of us, but we'd be behind the barn taking a little sip. And all of a sudden, I wasn't this little short, fat, insecure, scared little kid anymore. And that's kind of like what started the process that I know today. And then some other things that happened was I'd see these guys riding down the road on these loud two-wheeled vehicles, and I'd think to myself, boy, when I get big enough, I'm going to get me one of them. And part of it was, it seemed like nobody ever bothered those guys. It always seemed like, it looked like they were all having a lot of fun. And so when I got old enough, I bought me one, and, I was riding around and drinking and getting high, and, just all the stuff that goes along with that, And then, I met this girl, and her and I had a son. And at that time, I really believed that I was just like totally in love. This is the woman I'm going to spend my entire life with. We're going to raise this son and maybe have another one or something. I had a good job. She had a good job. And she decided to sleep with somebody else. And I was young. And I'm not trying to blame her. That's not why I'm leading into all this. But that's where my addiction really went insane. Because I did not know then, just like when I was 12, I didn't know I was a shy, fat, little insecure kid. And I didn't know how to deal with my feelings when I think I was right around 21 when this happened. And it was balls to the wall. It was all about whatever you had. I don't care whether it was your clothes, your body, your dope, your money. It did not make any difference to me what it was. If I wanted it, I took it, and I suffered all the consequences that went along with that lifestyle. The only thing I never did was go to prison. I wasn't an idiot when I was using like that. That's why they have good attorneys. And that's why you sell a lot of dope, so you can pay for the attorney to keep you from doing 10, 20, 30, or 40 years in prison. And my parents I had 2 really good parents, and I have to be careful talking about some of this stuff because both of my parents are dead, and both of them died while I was clean. And sometimes when I talk about them, I get this, I don't know, it's like this goose egg in my throat, and it chokes me up so bad I can't swallow. And then the next thing I know, the stuff I can't swallow comes out of my eyeballs. Matter of fact, outside I was talking to a young fellow from up in Madison, Ohio. His name's Craig. And he asked me, he says, how's them patches working? I said, not worth a shit. I said, I don't have one on and I'm smoking this cigarette. You know. I said, because the reason I say that is when I was real young, my mother used to tell me, one of these days you're going to regret that. And, you know, being a typical young person, I was like, what the fuck does she know? You know, and everything that either one of my parents had tried to instill in me when I was a kid, I ignored it. I had all the answers. I had that little liquid substance and a few other substances, and those substances told me that I knew everything. You know, if you just left me alone, and if you quit trying to give me all these helpful hints on life, I'd be okay. You know, and one of the things, me and my buddy Gary, we kid around about it all the time. We go, the older I get, the smarter my father was. and my mother too. Because everything, every little helpful thing that they tried to instill in me and my brothers, you know, I did the exact opposite. I just did the exact opposite. They used to call it being rebellious. Was I being rebellious? I don't really know. And I'm one of those people, when I got here, I remember this lady sitting right here in front of me, Debbie. She's one of my really, really good friends. And she met me the day, about 2 hours before I went to my first meeting. She's laughing, joking. I'm looking at her going, fucking bitch, check her out. Fucking sitting here laughing like she's having fucking fun. And because I had no comprehension of any of that stuff. And her and I are like really good friends today. And I love her dearly. But all those things that they tried to instill in me, I didn't want nothing to do with that stuff. I don't know why. You know, I'm not one of those people that, I'm not trying to figure it out. I don't want to understand it. I'm not interested. They told me at the first meeting, don't use and keep coming back. That was the key. Just like I have this, I always, all the guys that I sponsor, they get a kick out of me because I'm an analogy guy, and I learned that from my father. My father always used analogies, you know. This key right here opens up the saddlebag to my motorcycle. And the key that they gave me to recovery was don't use and keep showing up. Then they said, keep it simple, stupid. So they gave me all these different keys that I could use to kind of like unlock the ability to do better in life, be a little bit more respected, you know, because I mean, most of the people sitting in this room see me today and they think I'm, you know, this motorcycle guy with kind of a little bit of long hair and a little bit of a beard. And I was, if you, Debbie's seen me. She's seen me. She seen me crawling in there. They was going to cut my leg off. You know, I was just a fucking derelict. You know, my motorcycle was sitting in the basement of my house. Looked like somebody poured, you know, 5 gallons of gasoline on it. And took one of them bulldozers that you see out here all around the mountains where they're clearing off spots, and ran over it 3 or 4 times. You know, I had one pair of pants. That's pretty pathetic. You have one pair of pants and you're 37 years old and you're living with your mother. The people in Narcotics Anonymous cared and my mother cared. And they told me don't use and keep coming back. And I didn't use and I kept coming back. And I tried to keep it simple. They told me to get a sponsor. Since I've been clean, I've had 4 sponsors. My first sponsor was the guy that I went to my first meeting with. I knew him because we got high together. And he taught me some really valuable lessons, which I'm not going to get into because he's not a member of this fellowship anymore. You know, I call people like that rapists. They took what they wanted and they left. and I just don't think I want to play that way. You guys gave me a life, and I think I would be a fool to not keep showing up. My second sponsor did the exact same thing. He taught me a lot of valuable things too, but he did the same thing. He doesn't need this fellowship anymore. He took what he needed and he left. And they're both still clean. My third sponsor was Roy D. He lived in Warren, Ohio. He was clean for a long time, and he was a really great guy, and I loved him dearly, and I wish he was still alive today. But unfortunately, he had a brain aneurysm, and it killed him. Not to talk about Roy, because I'm supposed to be talking about me, and I am, but by observing what you guys do, and by you guys observing what I do, it gives each and every one of us a much better opportunity to have a better life. And Roy was a really smart guy, had a really good job, really great insurance, but he was one of those guys, I'm not going to the doctors, period. And he had 2 really bad abscess teeth, and they were infected, and it went to his brain, and he had an aneurysm, and it killed him. I don't have any insurance. If I don't feel good, I'm going to the doctors. I'm a fix-it guy. I own a motorcycle shop because of you people. I always was good at fixing motorcycles, and there was kind of a reason for that, because I didn't have a job, for one. I didn't think I needed to work. I didn't have a job for 18 years. I was 37 years old when I got clean. Due to math, 37 minus 18, that's when I quit working. My job was to steal your shit, sell you some dope, fix your motorcycle at your house, and go out and get high and run around and act like an asshole. So that's how I got good at fixing motorcycles. I'm still like really, really nervous. My chest is pounding like crazy. I used to tell people all the time, when my chest quits pounding, I know I'm either dead or done. Oh. I love you guys too, that's the truth. But that was how I lived my life. You know, and you guys gave me the opportunity to have 2 lives in one lifetime. I had what I thought was a life until it got so insane. People talk about unmanageability. I always got a kick out of that, because people would talk about unmanageability and they would be referring to it like they couldn't pay the electric bill, they couldn't make their car payments. You know, they weren't paying their rent or their house payment. I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't have none of that stuff for years. You know, I never had no electricity because I didn't have a house payment, because I didn't have a house. And if you don't have a house, you don't have an electric bill. You know, or if you don't have a car, you don't have a car payment. And I never had it, any of those types of things. My unmanageability was all in here. It wasn't about losing a job or losing the wife or the kids or any of those things. It was about up here. You know, I just wanted to die. And that's where I got to. You don't have to get to that spot. That's one of the things I found out since I've been clean, is you don't have to get to the spot where you just want to die before you come to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting and get some help. I see a lot of young people in NA nowadays, and part of me is really happy for them, and part of me feels sad because a lot of them don't keep coming back. And I can understand, because when I was 25, no. There's a gentleman sitting right over here. He's a good friend of mine. His name's Greg. He doesn't mind me talking about him. I talk about him all the time. Me and him used to sit in the local establishment doing what we was doing, talking about his sister and the guy that was my first sponsor. But he wasn't my first sponsor yet, and Greg wasn't here yet. And we'd be sitting around talking about how they were fucking brainwashed and we're not going there. And lo and behold, when I finally made it to crawling into this fellowship, I ran into him. I'm like, what are you doing here? He said, I've been here for 2 years. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. But usually when I speak at a meeting, I really don't have no rhyme or reason to what I'm talking about. I speak straight from my heart. You know, I talk about what happened prior to getting here. I talk about what has happened since I've been here. You know, I remember, you know, they would always be talking about these NA dances and picnics and stuff like that. You know, and they used to have a lot of them. When I got clean in the summertime, it was like just about every weekend where I lived. What's the hell of an echo in this thing? Am I the only person that hears that? Oh, okay. All right. I thought maybe I was having a flashback or something. You know. But you know, I lived that life, and I'm not kidding you when I tell you that. I have FTW tattooed on my back, and there's some people in here that knows that FTW used to mean fuck the world. And I really lived life, literally, fuck the world, period. You know, when I was in front of a judge, I never said anything nice to him, and I'd always got escorted out of there. Because, I mean, that's just how I lived my life. And today, I still have FTW tattooed on my back, and it means found the way. You know, so everything has two meanings. There's always a positive and a negative to everything. But my brain just jumps around so much all the time. You know, just like I'm not one of the people that has like a preconceived set up deal when I get up here. I'm going to talk about certain things. But I went to those dances. I had no idea how to have fun. None. I'm still working at it regularly. I do know how to have fun, just my fun level's a little different. But anyways, I'd go to those dances, and they did not play any kind of music that I liked, you know, at all, you know, and, but I learned to have fun. I learned to go to those dances and to those camp outs and picnics and have a nice time, you know. I wasn't beating myself up anymore. I weren't beating up any of you guys, you know. And most of the time, people was glad to see that I was showing up, you know. And I was glad to see you guys because I developed some really good friendships. And so I kept not using, going to all these little events, working the steps to the best of my ability. Because, see, a lot of times people think that my ability should be as good as Mike's ability or somebody else's ability. Well, I can only work them to the best of my ability. And it served me fairly well. My new sponsor has been here for a long time too, and my new sponsor was also a sponsee of Roy's. And I met Tom at a meeting, you know, and me and him kind of always got along, and he chose not to come and hang out for a while. He was still clean. He was still talking to other people in the program. He works out of town a lot, you know. And so I asked him to be my sponsor. And he's a really great guy, too, you know. He's real helpful. But I think I had about 5 months clean. I was at a Narcotics Anonymous camp out. It was called the North Coast Recovery Roast. It's up towards Cleveland. It's actually in a little town. At the time, it was in a little town called Thompson, Ohio. And went there that weekend, had a really great time. I mean, just had a ball, you know. Seen all kind of people, beautiful weekend, a lot of fun. Went home. When I pulled in the driveway, my mother come out, and she was as white as this wall behind me because my younger brother was in a bad motorcycle wreck. And he was laying in an intensive care unit in Youngstown, Ohio. And I went over there, and like I say, with 5 months clean, I didn't feel like using. I already had got to the spot in my life that using, and a lot of people disagree with this, is not an option. It is an option every day that I wake up, but it's not an option that I choose. So I went over to that hospital and I walked into the intensive care unit, and there's my younger brother laying there, and he's got tubes sticking out of every hole in your body that you can imagine, plus some extra ones that they had drilled in them to put some special tubes in. And when I seen him, I knew he was never gonna say hello to me again. And for 2.5 years, he laid in that state and rotted. But the thing that was the positive side of that, because that's the negative side, but the positive side of that was I was so tore up. Matter of fact, it tears me up right now talking about it. When I walked out into the hallway after visiting him for a couple minutes, there was like 5 or 6 people from Narcotics Anonymous. You know how like at your home groups when you say, do you know of anybody that's feeling ill or needs support from the fellowship? Well, somebody mentioned my name that day, and the Sunday night meeting filled out one of them cards, and those people brought it to the intensive care unit. So that told me also, you people care. If I'm not a real big I guy, but I do have to take some credit for what went on. Because if we don't take any credit for what went on, then we're really not doing anything for ourselves. Because you have to take a little bit of credit of what you do. I kept showing up every day, doing what they suggested. So I was participating. Because I've heard people, they didn't give me no fucking card. My aunt died, they didn't get me shit. I guess if you don't go to work, you don't get a paycheck. So if you don't go to meetings regular and your aunt dies, they don't know your aunt died. How the hell are they going to fix you up a card? That's the moral to that story, and that's all those little analogies that I talk about. So anyways, they brought me that card, and it was real emotional in that hallway that day. You know, so I kept showing up, and life kept getting better, and I kept working the steps to the best of my ability. I mean, I even used to question my sponsor about, am I working these steps good enough, Roy? He says, are you clean today? I'm like, yeah. He said, did you beat the shit out of anybody? I said, no. He said, did you cheat anybody? I said, no. He said, did you steal anything? I said, well, what's your point, Roy? He said, well, then you're working the steps great. Just give yourself a break, would you? You know. But that's what this fellowship's about. It's about participation. You know, back when I was like real new in the fellowship, you know, they talked about, you know, get involved. And I did, because I really wanted to give back. Because, I mean, I was really feeling good. And I know a lot of us sitting out here in this room today felt that way and feel that way still. So I became the H&I. Well, first I was the GSR for my home group. And I made a few suggestions. The home group decided we should do something. And so I took it to the area sent it to the region threw it in the trash. They never did shit. 20 years later, they still ain't did shit. You know. But anyways, I don't want to get off on one of them little tangents. I actually try to look at the positive side of those things, because what ended up happening was I was the H&I chairperson for quite some time. And the bottom line is I found out I was not a service junkie. Service. A lot of people talk about service really helped them stay clean. Service didn't want to make me use. Service made me want to whip your ass. A good friend of mine was the PI chair at the same time. His name's William. He spoke here a few years back. Me and him still like really tight. I say, William, I said, when I first got clean, they told me, we're going to have an H&I meeting tomorrow at 4:30. Somebody else would be like, hey, we're going to have a PI meeting Tuesday night at 7:30 just before the meeting starts. And I was real new, and you was real new. Did you have any idea what the hell H&I was? That was high to me, and PI was pie to me. Wasn't nobody explaining nothing to nobody. So I said, why don't you and I see if we can't get together and have some type of a learning conference? We'll have like a little learning conference, and then anybody that wants to come to it can get a little bit more knowledge and understanding of what H&I and PI and phone line and activities and all these other things we talk about, how they work. So we did that. And my first sponsor, he hadn't been going to no meetings for a while, and him and this lady came in there, and I call her a lady because I think she's a nice person. But they came in there and they said, you know what, Denny? You really think you're in charge. William and I had done everything that you're supposed to do, your 2-signature bank account. We'd pass out stacks of flyers to all the groups in a couple areas. Every time we'd have one of them meetings, there'd be like 3 of us there. So we would make a decision. Anyways, he wasn't my sponsor anymore, and he come in there after about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 of those subcommittee meetings and told me that I thought I was in charge. And I told him, you're absolutely right. I'm not in charge. You are, asshole. And I slid all the information over in front of him and told him, have a great day. I walked out, got on my Harley, and left. That was the end of my service career. I never completed a grade, hired in the 8th grade in school, because I already had all the answers, of course. But I'm a fairly knowledgeable common sense guy. And common sense told me, I don't need to be involved in this. If I feel like strangling you and my ability to practice the principles isn't good enough yet, then I might need to move away from that. It's like sticking your hand in a fire. It doesn't take a whole lot of common sense. You stick your hand in the fire and you bring it out, it's full of blisters, wait 6 months and go back and try it some more. Ain't happening. Most of the lessons that I learned in this fellowship, I enjoyed learning them. I enjoyed being around the teachers that I had that taught me. And because they used to talk about that a lot when I first got clean too. You can find whatever you want in this fellowship. Just what the hell are you looking for? I wasn't looking to get laid. I used to tell people all the time, I never went to a bar to shoot pool, play the jukebox, get lucky. I never, ever did I go to a bar to get lucky. I went there to get trashed. Period. I went to the bar to get trashed. If I got lucky, okay. If I shot pool, that's cool. If I played the jukebox, that was all right. But I didn't go there for those things. I did not go there for that. So, I don't know, I'll tell you, I really do. I really feel that I have been so blessed. And I don't use that word a lot. I like to say fortunate, because to me, blessed sounds a little bit more into like a religious type blessed, And I got a bad habit of telling people that the God of my lack of understanding is how I got here, because I'm still working on trying to understand it. Because I just don't. I don't understand how a lot of this stuff works. It's like computers. I was talking with Craig about that too outside. I don't have a clue. And all this shit starts popping up. Where's it come from? The phone line, or whatever. I don't understand that. I don't understand my higher power any better. I really don't. But what I do understand is if I don't use, and I keep showing up, and I keep talking about what's really going on. Because I tell you what, I know there was some people when I was, hell, there's probably still people now today that wish I wouldn't talk about how I felt. Because if you walk up and go, how you doing, Denny? I don't go, oh, I'm fucking great, man. I'm fucking great, man. Life's great. If there's some crazy shit going on in my life, I'm telling you about it. I'm not standing there dying inside going, oh, man, it's fucking great. It's really good. Yeah. But I tell you what, this is the greatest my life has ever been. I'll be 58 years old this year. I'll be 58 years old. Me and my buddy Gary kid around about that all the time. I'll never see 30. That was my goal. I didn't have a goal. I'm not going to college. My goal is I'll never make it to 30. Then when I hit 30, I knew I wasn't going to make it to 40. And then I found you guys at 37. And you helped me get where I'm at today. And to me, that's what this is all about. It ain't about, like in our readings, there's all kind of really neat stuff in there, It ain't about what we got or don't got. It ain't about what color our skin is. It ain't about none of that shit. No, I'm guilty of all the above because when I got here, I was a racist. I hated every one of you. It didn't make no difference what color you was. If you was a girl, I hated you. If you was a guy, I hated you. It didn't make no difference. I hated everybody. Prior to getting here and for a while after I was here. Because I hated me. I hated myself. And when you guys helped me to not hate me, then I started liking you. It's really weird how and this is just my story, because it's really weird how that shit worked. All my life, you need to respect me. It's weird how that worked, because once I learned how to respect Alan, I ended up gaining some respect for me. When I learned how to trust Mitch, then I could learn how to trust myself. It's so strange how that stuff works in kind of like reverse. Both of my parents died. My brother died. My daughter had a really cute little boy. So I have a little grandson. His name's Dylan. And he is a little ornery turd. But he sure loves me, and vice versa. I don't have my phone handy, or I'd pass it around and let you guys see a couple pictures of him. But he calls me Motorcycle Papa, and I love him to death. I really do. I probably should spend more time with him than I did my own children. But it's just not me. I spend enough time with him that he really enjoys seeing me and I really enjoy seeing him. Last year I was out of town on Father's Day, and Gary and myself and a few other people, we went to the Harley drags in Norwalk, Ohio. And Monday morning, here comes my daughter and my little grandson. He got this little brown bag, and he goes, "Here, Motorcycle Papa." And he hands me this little bag. And I open it up, and there's this really neat picture about this big. And it's him and me sitting on that motorcycle that I ride out there. And it says at the top, "Happy Papa's Day. Love, Dylan." And to me, those are the really important things that this fellowship gives us. You know, I mean, I can stand up here and tell you, yeah, I got all kind of pants now. I have T-shirts with my own names on them. Like, who fucking cares? Because all that shit could be gone. And this is for real when I tell you this. All that shit could be gone. Just like that. And I ain't talking about using. I'm not talking about using. I'm talking about, I leave here this evening, go over to the dance, bullshit around, smoke a few cigarettes, have a nice time, have a little pop, go to bed, and die while I'm fucking sleeping. That's what I'm talking about. So none of that stuff really means shit. What means something to me is enjoying life, having friends, true friends, people that really care. You know, none of those guys that I used to hang around with and do the booze and the dope thing, they don't come to my motorcycle shop. No, the reason I got that is because you guys. The guy pissed me off when I was doing the H&I and PI conference thing. Because common sense told me, if you don't want my fucking help, I'll help my damn self. I'll build a motorcycle shop. I was always good at working on motorcycles, I told you earlier. You know, and so that's what I did. I took that negative event and made it into a positive event. And I got a job. And I know the boss. And he's a real asshole some days. I just really, really love this fellowship. I mean, I still do dumb shit. I tell people all the time, I say, you know, I'm still the exact same person. Check this out. I'm still the exact, and I'm not real big on, like, puffing up the clean date, but on February 8th of 1989, when I met Debbie, and I crawled into my first meeting, literally, because it was going to cut my left leg off. When I crawled into that meeting, the piece of shit that I was that day, all the stuff up here, it didn't go nowhere. Check it out. It didn't leave. And you go, fuck it, I'm leaving. He got clean. I'm taking off. I'm pissed. I'm serious. That shit's still all in there. And if your shit left, I want to know how you got it to go. When we go outside after that big circle, you need to come up and tell me what you did so that it all took off. Because my shit didn't leave. The only thing I got is a choice. I have a choice on whether or not I let that shit happen today or whether I choose something different. I can still be a liar, a cheat, a thief, all the shit that I was when I got here, or I can choose not to be. I feel a whole lot better if I choose not to be. You know, every once in a while, you know, I decide to practice a little insanity and think that if I flip on the light switch, the toilet will flush, you know. It just don't work that way. You know, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like when I'm talking in front of a bunch of recovering addicts that I'm talking in circles. But all of this shit that I'm saying makes a lot of sense to me. It makes a lot of sense to me. You know, I mean, I remember when I met Wes, I remember when I met Bert and Rocco and Shane and Alan, this gentleman here, Jerry, you know, this lady over here, they come up and said hello to me. I remember meeting her here years and years ago. I thought she was from Cincinnati, she was from Columbus, but what the hell. I'm getting old, my memory ain't that damn good, you know. What can I say? But that I love coming here. I love being a member of Narcotics Anonymous. People go, well, you know, I'm not going to tell the guys I work with that I'm going to these Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I don't know what they're going to think of me. I'm like, you know what? They already know what you are. I know what I am. I knew what I was a long time before I ever got to the point where I could actually crawl in and beg you for some help. I knew what I was. Today I know what I still am, and I'm proud to be a recovering addict today. I deal with companies, and I'm not saying this stuff to like puff up no ego. It's just that, you know, I had one pair of pants and he was going to cut my legs off, and I didn't have any house payment or nothing. And today I have a lot of really nice things because of this fellowship. And I deal with companies that are multi-million dollar a month companies. And them people fucking love me. And you know what? It blows my mind because I say to myself, why the fuck do they like me? It ain't like I'm spending a lot of money with them or nothing. You know what I mean? And people say, it's because you're real. You're not standing there like this going, I want to see what I can get from this fucker. You know, they ask me how I'm doing, they get the same thing you get. I kid around with people. I tell people all the time, I says, I only change or modify how I talk. The only two people that I modify how I talk in front of, and that's a priest or the judge. Because I know for a fact both of those guys got a lot more power than me. And, you know, I mean, I've actually tamed it down a lot through the years. I think that has to do with age. You know, I remember when I got clean, they never said this to me, and I'm really glad. But they said it to some other people in the area where I live, and I really believe that the reason they never said it to me was because I had a hell of a lot of willingness. Like my friend Gary said, I just really did, and I still do. I don't want to go back to that piece of shit life I had. But they used to tell people for real, work the steps or die, motherfucker. They weren't kidding around. They weren't kidding, and it wasn't like work the steps, motherfucker, or we're gonna take you out back and shoot you. It wasn't that kind of a work the steps or die, motherfucker. It was because they wanted to see you start working the steps so that you could have a better life. It wasn't like they were saying that shit to piss you off so you'd leave, because they kept telling you, don't use it, keep coming back, and please work the steps, and that wasn't working. So, you know, so they're kind of like me, you know, they only know, you know, two ways of being. Either, well, you know, if you don't use it, you keep coming back, you try working the steps, your life will probably get better, and they're whining and bitching and moaning. So then they said, well, fuck it, work the steps or die, motherfucker. We'll see how that works, you know. And it was just kind of one of those things, you know, it kind of caught on a little bit, because there was some people that were still staying clean, and I was one of them, and they never told me that, and I was like, man, I hope they never say that to me, because if they do, I'm flipping the fucking table over. I'll piss them right off. I've met so many people, man, in this fellowship. It's so great, man. I'm serious, you know. And we kind of joke around and laugh and goof off, and I'll think of 500 other things I wanted to say after I'm done. It really doesn't make any difference, because I'm only saying what my higher power wants me to say. And you're only going to hear what you need to hear. Because all the other stuff, if you don't need to hear it, you're not going to hear it. You know. I wish my parents were still alive. I can't change that. I wish Greg's mom and dad was still alive. I remember Greg's mom and dad. Me and Greg grew up together. We were kids. I met him in 1963. He's an old fart, too. And his mom and dad were really nice people, you know. But unfortunately, that's part of life. All those things that I was talking about earlier, those are all part of life. We don't like those things, but we don't have to get high over them. We have a support groups, you know, and different people have a little bit different take on a support group. Debbie's part of my support group. Gary's part of my support group. I mean, I don't know all your names. So just look around and you'll see my support group. Then I have like little special people in my support group that, I remember when my mom died, I called my friend Gary. I swear to God, he fucking got dressed in the car. Seemed like I no sooner hung up the phone and he was in the parking lot of the hospital. And just so that you know, I mean, I had some years clean when that happened. And I tell people, if I would have had a gun over here instead of a cell phone, this is God's truth, I'm not joking. If I'd had what I used to carry right here, instead of my cell phone, I wouldn't be standing here today. That pain, when the guy flipped open the ambulance doors, he says, I'm sorry. She passed on the way here. Had I had Bertha, that's what I call my 44. If I'd have had Bertha here, where she usually is, I'd have blew my head off. But my higher power did not want me to shoot myself, so he found it necessary for me to get with a little bit of technology and get a cell phone. And I called my friend Gary, he was there. I'm talking a couple of minutes, and that's the things that this fellowship's about. Sure, I might be doing some stupid shit, and people go, why the hell is Denny doing stupid shit like that? I don't think I do too much of it, but I probably do. I just don't see it. And when I see somebody else is doing something that looks like it's kind of out of character, it's not like we're really judging them. It's just we really give a shit. Because if somebody sees me doing something that may be detrimental to my health, or maybe detrimental to my recovery process, and Roy taught me that too, because he told me one time that him and another fella helped kill a guy. I was new too. I'm like, holy fuck. These fuckers helped kill this guy. Oh. So I asked him, I said, what the hell you mean you helped kill this guy? And he told me, he said, we seen what this guy was doing. We seen what he was doing. And we didn't say anything to him. And he ended up dead. So see, a lot of times when we think we're judging somebody, we're not really judging somebody. It's kind of like a double-edged sword or whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like a fine line between the two things. It's not really that you're judging them, it's that you care about them. If you see somebody doing something that you think might really cause them some serious problems, 'cause I'll tell you what, if you see me doing something that you think might cause me some serious problems and you don't say nothing to me and you call yourself my friend and I get hurt because of the dumb shit I'm doing and you don't make me aware because I ain't seen it, I might kick your ass. If the dumb shit I'm doing don't kill me. Cause this thing's broke. My friend Bill right there, he always says, this is not my friend. Every time he says that, boy, he got that one right. It sure the hell ain't my friend either, But that's what this is about. This fellowship is about people helping people. A bunch of low-life pieces of shit coming into this fellowship, broken, beaten, battered, whatever you want to call it, and we come in here. I mean, I see girls come in here, man. I'm like, God, man, that girl, she got her ass whipped. A month and a half later, she's popping into me, man. I'm like, wow, check it out, man. That's what happens. We actually start getting that little tiny bit of hope, just a little bit. I hope. I remember, I never thought I'd get a 30-day key bag. I can remember sitting there and people would stand up and had 60 days. I'm like, fuck, 60 fucking days, goddamn. Shit, 60 fucking days, wow. But to get that little bit of hope, because that's all we got to offer you. That's all we got to offer is that little bit of hope, and then it grows. Then we get obsessed with something else, start acting crazy somewhere else. But that's what we get here. You get that little bit of hope. Start looking a little bit better, start acting a little bit better, start talking a little bit better. I still need a lot of improvement in that area because my talking skills still suck. you know. But just so that you know, after the meeting, ask Debbie, ask Greg, ask Madeline, ask Gary. They'll tell you they've improved tremendously in comparison to what they was like before. They used to hope me and my buddy William would just be quiet. Don't ask them how they're doing, because they got really foul mouths and they're really open to tell you what is going on with them, and you're probably not going to like the way they say it. People had a hard time with that when me and William got clean, because William's a black guy and I was an old nasty looking biker dude, you know, and we hung out all the time. I mean, the only thing me and him didn't do was sleep together, and we did that a couple times when we went to a couple conventions, because we couldn't afford 2 separate rooms, and they only had this great big bed. So he slept on one side, I slept on the other side, and I told him, you make sure you stay on your side of the bed. But I'm serious, man. And I say these things because that's what recovery is to me. People think that recovery is that, you know, let me write a big fucking 4-step and I'll really be recovered. You know what I mean? If I write 25 fucking pages on a 4-step, I really did a good job. I did a way better job than the guy that wrote 3 pages. But the guy with 3 pages has 30 years clean. And the guy that wrote 25 pages ain't here no more. So who did a better 4-step? It doesn't make any difference. It's about willingness to participate in trying to improve my life with your help. And to be honest with you, I need a cigarette, so like, I'm done.